My father, Richard, cast me aside, lavished attention on his stepdaughters, and then had the audacity to ask if he could attend my wedding. I'm Mia, 28, female, and this is the story of how I navigated the pain of his absence and found my own peace. As a child, I always felt a disconnect with Richard. He worked long hours, but it wasn't just his job that kept him distant. He was emotionally unavailable, a shadow in our home. My brother, Ethan, and I rarely felt his warmth. Our mother did her best to hold the family together, but the strain between her and Richard was palpable. Their arguments were relentless, sparked by the smallest things, unpaid bills, forgotten chores, or minor missteps. Richard had a knack for turning every conflict into our fault, making us feel like we were always in the wrong. Still, there were glimmers of connection. Richard introduced me to old Western films, and we'd laugh together at the dramatic shootouts. Those moments were rare, though, fleeting sparks in a sea of tension. Most evenings, he'd return home drained and prickly, snapping at us with cutting remarks. Ethan and I felt like inconveniences in his life. On his better days, when nothing had set him off, he could be gentle. But even a tiny mistake, like leaving a dish in the sink, would unleash a tirade. He'd call me careless, claim I disrespected his efforts. Ethan got it worse. He pushed back, questioning why Richard was never truly present. Once, Ethan asked why he never made time for us, and Richard erupted, ranting about the sacrifices he made to keep a roof over our heads. I learned to tiptoe around him, afraid to speak. Eventually, the constant friction broke my parents' marriage. My mother filed for divorce, and I hoped Richard might finally step up as a father. I was mistaken. A year later, he remarried without a word to us. I found out about his new wife, Laura, and her daughters, Sophie and Ava, through a cousin. They were at his wedding. Ethan and I were not. The rejection cut deep, and we decided to stop chasing his love. For years, I focused on building my own life. I met my partner, Noah, and found joy in our shared moments. When we got engaged, I briefly considered reaching out to Richard. Before sending wedding invitations, I unblocked him on social media and instantly regretted it. His profile was a glowing tribute to his new family. Photos of Laura, Sophie, and Ava beamed with coordinated outfits, captions proclaiming them his everything. He'd never shared such pride for Ethan or me. Worse, I learned he'd taken them on extravagant vacations, something he'd never done for us, and bought them a puppy after denying us even a hamster. Once, when I was young, he'd given away my pet rabbit while I was at school, offering no reason. The double standard burned. Then Ethan dropped another bombshell. Richard was funding Sophie and Ava's college educations, while he'd forced us to take out loans, preaching self-reliance. My anger flared. Noah helped me see that Richard wasn't worth my energy, but the hits kept coming. My mother mentioned Richard bragging about walking Sophie and Ava down the aisle one day, oblivious to my own upcoming wedding. Then Ethan revealed Richard had given Sophie our grandmother's vintage necklace, a keepsake meant for us. That was the final straw. I blocked him completely, determined to let go. Months later, Richard contacted Ethan, asking to attend my wedding. Guilt tugged at me, but I stood firm and said no. My mother's words anchored me. You don't owe him anything. The wedding day was radiant. My mother walked me down the aisle, and Noah's love eclipsed old wounds. Later, Ethan shared that Richard had called, saying he was proud of me. It didn't erase the past, but it felt like a small acknowledgement. Life settled into calm after the wedding. Then my aunt called with news. Richard was gravely ill. I chose not to reach out. If he wanted to mend things, he'd have to make the effort. He didn't. I found peace in my decision. Closure doesn't always come from others. Sometimes you forge it yourself. My family, Noah, Ethan, my mother, is my foundation. I don't need Richard's validation to feel whole. Months after my aunt's call, a package arrived from an unfamiliar address. The sharp, slanted handwriting stopped me cold. It was Richard's. Inside was a small wooden box and a letter. My hands shook as I read. Mia, I won't make excuses. You were right to shut me out. I failed you and Ethan as a father. These words can't undo the damage, but I owe you honesty before it's too late. Laura and her girls were an escape, not a substitute. I poured myself into their lives because it was easier than facing my failures with you. They didn't know the man I was, so I could pretend to be better. It was weak. The necklace was your grandmother's. I gave it to Sophie in a moment of shame when she asked about family treasures. It belongs to you, and it's in the box. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know I regret it all. Every trip, every tuition check, every proud post, it was a mask to hide my guilt for losing you. Richard the box held the necklace, its delicate chain glinting. Tears welled as I touched it. Ethan appeared in the doorway. "What's that?" he asked. I handed him the letter. He read it, his face unreadable. "Do you buy it?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. "But it doesn't change what happened." He nodded. "Still, it's something." Winter brought another call from my aunt. Richard's health had declined further. "He's asking for you," she said softly. This time I wavered. The letter had stirred something, not absolution, but a need to understand. What would it cost to see him once more? Noah held my hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm here." I went alone. The hospice room smelled of bleach and fading flowers. Richard looked diminished, swallowed by the bed. His eyes fluttered open. "You came," he rasped. I crossed my arms. "Not for closure." He coughed. "Thank you." We sat in silence until he spoke again. "Tell me about your life." About Noah. So I did. I shared stories of our little balcony garden, the rescue dog we'd adopted, and Ethan's new job. Richard listened, tears streaming down his face. As I stood to leave, he whispered, "I'm sorry, Mia." I paused at the door. "So am I." Richard died 2 weeks later. Ethan and I didn't go to the funeral, but we lit a candle at home. Laura's daughters posted online, calling him the best father. I felt nothing, no rage, no sorrow, just stillness. Months later, while sorting through old boxes, I found a photo of Richard teaching me to ride a bike, his hands steadying the seat, my smile bright with trust. Noah hugged me. "You okay?" I tucked the photo away. "Yeah, just reminiscing." The necklace rests in my jewelry box now. I wear it sometimes. Other times, I forget it's there. Healing isn't dramatic, it's quiet, uneven progress. The seasons shifted, and life moved on. Noah and I bought a cabin near the hills. Ethan proposed to his partner. My mother finally perfected her meatloaf after countless tries. Richard's shadow no longer looms. The pain of his absence has dulled, smoothed by time like pebbles in a stream. While clearing out the garage one day, I found a box labeled Mia's keepsakes in Richard's handwriting. Inside were old school projects, a faded wristband from my first concert, and a sketch I'd made of our family, simple figures with wide grins. A note was tucked beneath, "For when you're grown." So you know I held on to you, even when I didn't know how to show it. I stared at the words, wondering if he'd loved us in his broken way. Maybe love alone isn't enough. That night, I dreamed of Richard in our old backyard, teaching me to carve wood, keeping a promise he'd made when I was 9. In the dream, he showed up. Over breakfast, I told Noah. He smiled. "You made peace with him long ago. Now you're just finding peace with yourself." He was right. Some bonds can't be mended. Some scars linger. But you learn to carry them lightly, to build a life around the love that endures, in meatloaf mishaps, garage discoveries, and quiet mornings with the person who sees your soul. Richard's memory doesn't haunt me anymore. It drifts through occasionally, like a soft wind through an open window. And that's enough.